Hey guys, Sean Zim, the Connection Machine, aka the Insurance Doctor. Another connection conversation show where we bring on guests to share some strategies, some tips and tricks. And we're hoping that you're going to take some action and actually implement some of the ideas that we're talking about. If you are, watching us live, drop a hashtag live on the replay, hashtag replay. I want to make sure throughout the conversation, if you have questions, drop a comment. If you have a favorite emoji, drop that every once in a while so we know you're alive. Sponsorship. This has been sponsored by networkmarketinginsider.com. Definitely check that out. Podcast and also the coin, and also got backup if you are interested in 6 terabytes of storage for $9.97 per month. Both links are in the description, as well as all the information on my guest. Let me bring on my next guest. It's Dean Clark. What's up, man? How are you?
Doing fantastic, Sean. Thanks for having me.
This is wonderful to have other professionals. I asked a lot of people after calls, do you want to go on and do a video or be on the podcast? And some of them are hesitant, and you are not, which is awesome. I appreciate that. But there's a lot of fear out there. So before we even get into that, who are you and what do you do, Dean?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dean Clark. I run the Dean Clark Group here at eXp Realty, and we're a local Navy SEAL real estate sales team. And the reason I say Navy SEAL is because it's by design, where I have hand select few agents that have joined our company. And so we have 4 full-time agents that work besides myself. I'm also an active agent, and I have multiple staff members in-house and also virtual. And so, yeah, I mean, we help approximately anywhere from 70 to 80 families and people buy and sell real estate throughout. This has been consecutive the last 5 years consistently. And, one of the things that has attributed to our success as a team really is being involved in communities like we built, like we call the Phone Warriors, which is another Facebook community where agents can go in there and prospect and look for buyers and sellers for their listings and or to help them move.
Which is, I think it's fantastic. There's a lot of things out there. People are looking for lead generation ideas, other strategies. They want stuff that works. And this Phone Warriors, I think what I get out of it, it's like you're motivating others. If you're on a Zoom, you're all doing the same thing, prospecting for buyers and sellers, but maybe you're in between a call, you could hear what's going on and maybe pick up some ideas from what's working from another agent across the country. Can you expand on this?
Yeah, so there's a saying that I kind of like to. I actually just posted it on my Instagram, which you guys can follow me on at Dean Clark Group. And so what I had put up there, a few photos of my friends. I was in Scottsdale last week at a real estate conference, and one of the things I realized is that there are all kinds of cheat codes that are lying around, but they usually look pretty boring. People will routinely ignore things that already work for the hope of a slightly easier path. And so, but here's the reality: the cheat code is the work that you're avoiding. And so the reason that I had, I put that out there is because that a lot of us, we know that picking up the phone, especially still in real estate sales, it is belly to belly. As much as there's AI that's just transforming the landscape, there's the new commission lawsuit settlement that had come through. That also had changed some things. But at the end of the day, a lot of my conversations have really stayed the same. I'm obviously having to explain some little nuances, but I mean, it's like, look, is there an opportunity for you to sell your property, to buy your property, etc.? And it's really that simple. And I think agents try to complicate it because they want to be busy as opposed to being productive.
I like that. Busy instead of being productive. Yeah, because you could say you're busy, which most salespeople, no matter what they're involved in, they're always busy. But are you closing business? Are you actually getting commission? Are you making money? Or are you just saying and looking like you're doing something? So I definitely agree with you. And it would help to get involved with this Phone Warriors because other people are watching you, or not necessarily, but you might think they are. And you might say some great things that are coming out of people say, oh, I don't say anything. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm brand new. That's how you learn.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I would say what we call just like ego that gets in the way. Now,
yeah.
Ego doesn't always mean arrogance. It doesn't always mean like, oh, you reached a certain level like you, Sean, or other people that are scaling their businesses and operations in different ways. It could just be you're new and your ego is telling you, I don't know anything, so I don't want to look like a fool. But I have a thing on my team that I not require, but I hope that they embark on it, which is it's really what's called 100 days of rejection. And
Love it.
because and the more you can get rejected earlier on in the first year should be filled with failure and rejection. I know it sounds so crazy for me to say, but I'm not going to sit here like every other broker manager and like other thing. Everyone sells this big dream. They sell it, and you 100% can earn it. Trust me. I've lived it. If it wasn't for my real estate activities, I wouldn't be in the school district for my kids that I'm in. I wouldn't be in certain areas and investments that I'm involved in. But I've realized early on that I have to live frugally for a little bit, and then be okay with rejection at a very high level. And many people don't like that. But that's what phone words is for. It's for you to see other people get rejected, and then you realize, oh, it's not that bad. Let me set my foot in the ring and see what it's about. And it really is. And so I run the group, right? My partner and I, Rich, run the group. And one thing for me is it's always about a very high expectation for you personally, but also positive accountability. It's not meant to be like, oh, that sounded like shit. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You can't do it. No, it should be the opposite. But I came from that world, that old school, like, oh, you're not that good. I'm like, I'm 6 months into this. Why are you yelling at me? It's so weird. So I decided to say, you know what, as a leader, it's important for us to look at this as that you are in a position of like, let's say, power and leverage to help someone that you were looking at yourself as you were coming up. And so I said, you know what did I always want? I always wanted to have a high standard of a team or organization that I was involved in. And then also, secondly, is I want to be positive accountability. I want you to tell me what I did wrong, maybe, but later, but that's not what it should be like up front. And I feel like there's a lot of what I call faux leaders out there.
Mm-hmm.
They claim to be people that are running a business or they own a business, but they're horrible leaders. And a lot of people are warnings or examples. I mean, I've been very blessed that my parents are examples in my life. Other people, mentors in my real estate space, have been mentors and examples, and other people have been warnings. And so I just kind of took the opposite approach of that. And Phone Warriors is really that community that supports the effort of prospecting at the highest level.
Love that. And I also, if you didn't pick up on it early on, Dean was saying he helps, I think, 75 to 100 families a year. He didn't
Yes,
sell
70 to 75 usually a year.
75 families per year. He didn't say I sell homes. And that's an important thing, because I believe, after even talking to you a short time as well, family is very important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, a family, I mean, I would say like that's one of my passions. It's something that I think has guided me in like the right way all the time. I always say to myself, like, even before I had kids, I said to myself, like, what would with everything we have social media now, like, look, we're doing like right here. It's
Yep.
one of these things where, you like, I don't want my kids to look back and say, that was my dad. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that was my dad, it's really weird. And so whether I was in, early 20s to now. And so, because I knew I was going to have kids. It's just a matter of, I don't want them to have a footprint of just catastrophe. And I wanted them to have just like, I want to be a good example. Right. So going back to that. So yeah.
How many kids do you have, Dean?
3.
Now, I always joke, I have 4. And I have 3 daughters and my last mic drop son, right? When you first have a kid, it's just like, all right, 'cause it's funny to watch the ones that have only 1. You get 2, it starts to get a little crazy. 3
Yep.
and more is like goddamn chaos goes on.
Yep.
Can you explain like how things happen in the household of more than 2?
I don't know. Maybe you have 4, so maybe you could actually talk a little bit further than I can. But I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a good saying that like 1 is none and 2 is 10, and there's a reason, because after 2, it's just complete chaos, and you have to just roll with it. But I think that's also what has benefited me in terms of being a leader in the space that I'm in now, and I'm very thankful for that role. I don't. It wasn't something I really sought out. I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to be a team leader and run my own team and brokerage or whatever you want to call it. It was just kind of organically happening because people were asking me questions all the time, and they said like, oh man, I wish I could just be more like along that side. But I think having kids, it's like it teaches you so much, right, Sean? Like, I mean, you realize there's just so much that you can learn from how you react to your own kids. Because I know that there's also something I noticed as well. It's easier for us to reprimand, let's say, someone else's kids. I mean, or vice versa, right? We
Right.
can reprimand our kids, but yet we don't do that the same way to other kids. And so why is that the case, right? It's because we have a high standard usually of like we see ourselves in our
Yep.
kids. And that's the same way that I look at my business. Is like I'm seeing the agents develop in a certain way, and so I want to make sure that they're in the right. So we're growing. We're a fresh team, only about 2 years old. I've been in business for 14 years, but I've only started my team about 2 years ago, and so it's just the right chapter of my life right now. And I hope that anyone that's looking to do anything in northern New Jersey really, and we're really focused in Hoboken and Jersey City. So that's the main pocket. Like anything in Hudson County, Lower Bergen, even to Bayonne, to Edgewater, Cliffside Park, down to West. I mean, that's kind of like our speed. But yeah, so that's kind of where our focus has been. So
And with mine having four, I'll piggyback. I have an 18-year-old, then I have an almost 6, almost 4, and almost 2. So I have the 3 at home, and my other one's with her mother. She lives with her mother, so I don't have them all at the same time. But when we're all together, man, it's loud, it's messy, it's fun. But I also, those that are watching, if you're a dad, take time to actually be with your kid.
yeah,
Don't work all the time. Take time, because they're only going to be young for a short period of time, and then they're going to get old again. I see that now with my oldest. I'm like, holy shit, you're a senior in high school and now you're driving, you're 18. Time flies, but
yeah, and
definitely
maybe we
take
should talk
time.
about that. I think that's
Yeah,
that's like a really good topic. I mean, we can talk about that for hours. I mean, it's like how do you balance everything when you have a family and everything like that. I don't know who's listening and like what our audience is here, but I would just say that look, if you're thinking of having kids or you're worried about not being in a financial position to have kids, let me just first say that I didn't start making money until I had kids. Okay,
right.
so I think it forces you to have a certain focus that you have to just get on the horse and do it. And you'd be surprised that kids actually and they also bring out usually the best or worse than you. It depends on how you are self-developed as well. But at the same time, like I think that I think we overthink it. The having kid part. So, but to your point is that it does happen very fast. I mean, you remember my oldest. I mean, she's 6 years old now, but like, I mean, I remember she was like a baby. I'm like, my God, it just happened so fast. So, but their currency is time, is your time as a
Yep.
parent. So, they don't care. Like, I really, it's so funny looking back on it. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like it's just one of those things where I never want to not be there, but I also want to build a great business, and I don't want to be that
Right.
old doing it either. So there is that kind of like catch-22 in a way, but you have to just be okay with what your decisions are. But I don't want to have any regrets, and I think that's the biggest thing that I also follow.
Agreed. Regret is something you don't want to ever have. So if you're not around your kids now, definitely start getting around them, because you make up time. I believe you can, and get that closeness again. And I want to round out our conversation today, because yes, I agree. We could talk about being a dad and everything. We can get onto another episode another time for sure. But you talked about, or love this, trying to transition very, very well. Should always, I love it, is learning, having that mindset of constantly in that growth mindset and learning new things. What are some things you're involved in now that's kind of trying to better yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, like I honestly, I think that if it wasn't for my obsession of always wanting to learn, I call it ABL, always be learning, because there seems to be a direct correlation to the amount of books that I read, and also to the amount of events that I go to and seminars and different things, to the level of my own personal growth. Now, I also like a lot of agents or whoever's listening to this, could hear this. Well, I'm working my ass off. I'm doing whatever I can. I'm putting in the hours. I'm role playing my scripts and dialogues. I'm going on appointments. I'm doing what I have to do, and yet they're not growing as fast as they want. And so I suspect. I mean, like really, what took me to the next level, and even doing the team thing now, was literally because I during COVID we had extra time. People weren't showing houses, they weren't doing what they had to do. So I was like, okay, I have like more time in my day than I usually have had. And so no one really wants to talk about anything but like what they just want to be safe and everything. So, okay.
Yep.
So before the market took off at the end of 2020, I had like 3 months where I was just reading all the time. And I think that like that, it taught me so much. I mean, I had now time finally to like read about everything about business and politics and life and like what's reality. And so I think that, we have to be learning constantly. And that's where I found my biggest thing that, I would say it's a combination of learning and staying focused on the path that you have. I'm not a big believer in doing multiple things. I know there's a lot of people that are doing, the multiple streams of income thing, which 100%, like there's no doubt, like at some level in 20, 30 years, we need to have multiple streams of income, but usually it starts with one main one. And then you start to like get around like the other sides of it. So, so yeah, I think learning is essential to anyone that wants to grow.
No, I agree. And if you're learning, you can go to webinars, you can read books, audio books, what have you. A big takeaway is you got to implement and take action. Don't just go to these things or read these things and never put anything in motion. Actually put things in motion and watch your life change, your whole situation change. You want to make more money, you have to actually put some time into it. You got to put some work into it. It's not all luck. People think it's going to be, he's so lucky he picks it, because he's putting himself in that position to take on that luck for whatever opportunities come in their way. So I definitely agree. Always be learning, always be connecting. That's my little slogan, because without this, and I challenge people watching this, and if you haven't subscribed. I have a playlist for the Connection Conversation show. There's agents on there, accountants, financial advisors, other small business owners. And they're like, who do I call? Well, they're right there. You have all their information. You can say, I saw you on a podcast with Sean Ziem. It's an easy, warm introduction. They're going to take your call. And that's
and
allow you to build
I think
your
if there's
business.
anything, sorry to cut you. I just wanted to say one last thing too about that. I think people, like to your point, like you built a platform where people can connect and they have access to these other contacts and people that they can connect with, right? And I think that a lot of people, this is why I have an obsession around communication, because I realized so many people, they literally cannot pick up the phone. I mean, I had an agent one time, she would literally not pick it up. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, she's in my office. We're all making our calls. We have like a 45-minute blast period happening, and she just won't pick up the phone. And so I think if there's anything I would recommend relating to that is that, look, you can learn all the best scripts and dialogues out there. You can learn and all these different ideas and everything like that, to your point about taking action, but you just have to do it. I don't know what it is that you have to do to get yourself to just pick up the phone and make that call. Let me tell you something. If you haven't done it hundreds of times, like me and Sean, let's say, or thousands of times, really like me, it's not going to happen overnight. Like you're not going to know like exactly what to say in the beginning, and you have a different flow of your vernacular. You just have to, and that's part of the getting rejected part. If you're not okay with that, you probably shouldn't be in sales or being in a position where you have to procure new business. That's what I really believe. And you might be suited for something else. That's okay. But if you're going to be in front of house and be in sales, like Sean and I are constantly recruiting and connecting and, making sales calls and doing what we have to do, you're going to have some moments where you're like, I don't really know how to approach this, but I'm just going to say hi, see if there's any synergy there. And you'd be surprised. I mean, a lot of stuff happens just from a normal conversation that you had no idea where to go with the conversation. But I mean, so that's really where I feel like a lot of people get messed up. You just have to do it, and then you'll figure out like, oh, this works or that doesn't work, and I should not do that. But people don't want to hear that. They don't want feedback, and that's the biggest advice I can give anybody.
And that is a powerful ending. That was definitely where I wanted to go. I want to make sure everyone that's tuning in, make sure you go to the description, get all of Dean's information, go to his socials, take a look at his, contact information, have a call with him, get to know him, see if it's on the real estate side, buying or selling, or just maybe going onto his team or any other thing that might have hit a nerve with us in this conversation today. Dean, thanks so much for being with us. Stick around for one moment. And everyone else, we hope you had an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you.